I mentioned at the top of the show in our first segment, sort of taking a big picture look at what's going on and the options, the two possible paths forward that the country is facing right now in the wake of the riotous insurrection from last week. I talked about what's happening within the Republican Party, and you have some Republicans that are bailing on Donald Trump. And you have some that are not. And I made the point that the people that are bailing with 11 days to go, this is not an act of courage. This is an act of self-preservation. And it's really important that we not allow these people to rehabilitate their reputations because they've been part of it for a very long time. And only now, when it is relatively safe politically to do so, they are saying this is too much, that's too much, I can't be a part of it. But that being said, there is a growing list of Republicans that now want to remove Donald Trump. And I think it's important to understand that this is different. We did not see this during the first impeachment, as it looks like we are heading towards a second impeachment of the president. So let's talk about it a little bit and go through some of the instances. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, a sitting senator, Republican from the state of Alaska, says that she wants Trump out and may even leave the Republican Party altogether over this. Now, if she does leave, she's not saying she would become a Democrat. There's every indication that if she were to leave the Republican Party, she would be an independent. But she put out a statement pointing out that Donald Trump incited this mob to unlawfully breach the Capitol, led to injured and, in fact, law enforcement deaths, put members of Congress in danger, put the vice president in danger, interfered with the duty of Congress to count the electoral votes. And she goes on to say that Donald Trump indeed should leave. Lisa Murkowski saying, I think he should leave. He said he's not going to show up. He's not going to appear at the inauguration. He hasn't been focused on what's going on with COVID. He's either been golfing or he's been inside the Oval Office fuming and throwing every person who's been loyal and faithful to him under the bus, starting with the vice president. He only wants to stay there for the title, she says. He only wants to stay there for his ego. He needs to get out. He needs to do the good thing, but I don't think he's capable of doing a good thing. So an important statement from Republican Lisa Murkowski. She's not saying she would vote to convict. She's saying Trump should leave. Trump should resign. And it's not clear that there's even a 1% chance that he does that. And yes, she also went on to say that her future may not be in the Republican Party, but it's not in the Democratic Party either. Every indication is Lisa Murkowski would become an independent if she were to leave the party. But it's something. It's still a big deal. Another current Republican senator, Pat Toomey, says remove Trump. He's actually saying it is time to remove Donald Trump. Take a listen to what he had to say yesterday on one of the Sunday shows.
Your Republican colleague, Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, says President Trump should resign. She said, quote, he's caused enough damage. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think at this point, with just a few days left, it's the best path forward, the best way to get this person in the rearview mirror for us. That could happen immediately. I'm not optimistic it will. But I do think that would be the best way forward.
So that is a big deal. That is huge. There's no way around that. Yes, we're down to 9 days left, but that is still, it's starting to point to what we had. When Richard Nixon was about to be impeached, Republicans got together and they went to him and they said, "This is it. This is it. You're getting impeached and we're going to convict." And at that time, circumstances were very different. And it's almost cliche and overly simplistic to say Republicans then were willing to do what Republicans today aren't willing to do. The Republican Party is also dramatically more radical today than it was. I think that today's Republican Party also wouldn't have said to Nixon, it's time to go, unfortunately. But that was when there was something that was beyond the line. Today, nothing seems to be beyond the line for most Republicans. So good for Pat Toomey. However, he then says in the same interview that voting for Trump made sense at the time.
After Wednesday's attack, you took to the Senate floor to denounce President Trump as a demagogue. But we should note you voted for him in November for the second time, even after Charlottesville,
right.
Even after he used force to clear Lafayette Square for a photo op, even after he embraced QAnon conspiracy theorists, many of whom were in that mob. I'm not saying you bear any responsibility for what happened on Wednesday, but do you regret not doing more to stop somebody you're now calling a demagogue, who's pretty obviously been a demagogue for his entire political career?
Yeah, Jake, I don't think there's any doubt at all. There's none in my mind that the president's behavior after the election was wildly different than his behavior before. He descended into a level of madness and engaged in activity that was just absolutely unthinkable and unforgivable. For 4 years, he often put out offensive and objectionable tweets, actually sometimes dozens a day. I never felt, and I still don't think, that my job was to be the editor of his Twitter feed, although I was very often critical.
So you can see the direction that's going, right? I mean, these are pathetic defenses. If we all knew what the direction of Trump's presidency was going to be, why couldn't they know? We knew in 2016 when Trump was elected that this was going to become an authoritarian nightmare. And Pat Toomey says, well, other than the mean tweets, it all seemed perfectly reasonable at the time. No. And this is why I'm saying a lot of these guys are doing this just out of self-preservation. And then lastly, longtime Trump loyalist Christie says, if inciting to insurrection isn't impeachment worthy, then I really don't know what is.
Now, but if an impeachment resolution actually comes to the floor, won't many Republicans be hard-pressed to oppose it?
Yeah, listen, I think they're all going to have to vote their conscience and look at what happened. I mean, what we had was an incitement to riot at the United States Capitol. We had people killed. And to me, there's not a whole lot of question here. So,
So you think it was an impeachable offense?
Before Jordan. Oh, sure. Yeah. And
you'd vote to impeach.
I think that, if I think it's an impeachable offense, that's exactly what I would do, George. But I'm not in there. But you want my opinion? That's my opinion. I think if inciting to insurrection isn't, then I don't really know what is. But I will say too that the Democrats, by what they did earlier on Ukraine, have kind of cheapened this a little bit too.
So there's always a hedge, and Christie says Democrats cheapened impeachment with Ukraine. But yeah, he should be impeached this time. That's a big time Trump loyalist. That's a powerful Republican figure. That's a guy who was metaphorically and literally behind Donald Trump for years, standing on stage, sometimes looking a little sick from the things Trump was saying. But it's a big deal that Christie now says, yes, this is absolutely impeachable. So there's no sympathy for any of these Republican operatives. They were behind Trump for years. But it is important that it's also Republicans this time, too, not because we need to allow their image to be rehabilitated, but because it confirms to us how bad things are, that even with the most radical Republican Party we've arguably ever had, we are starting to see some Republicans say it's time to go. Yeah, it's pathetic. It's only 9 days to go. I get it. They don't get anything other than this does signal how insane the situation has gotten. But one guy who I guess is going down with the ship is Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, and I want to talk about him next. I want to take a second to tell you about one of our sponsors, S&H Masks. S&H Masks has everything you need when it comes to face masks and other protective gear for COVID-19, and they're giving my audience 20% off. S&H Masks is the company that I've personally been going to for face masks. I love and trust the products they sell, and that's actually why I reached out to them about being a sponsor. I've tried tons of different face masks this year, like many of you, and I still have not found a mask that is more comfortable or easier to breathe in than the washable cotton masks that they sell. It's made of a silky, lightweight cloth that feels great on the skin, has a convenient adjustable strap. They also have disposable cloth masks, which are really comfortable, as well as all of the other gear like face shields, alcohol wipes, no-touch infrared thermometers. And all of their prices are very reasonable. I also love S&H Masks because they've donated over 60,000 masks to healthcare institutions. They're an excellent company. Shipping is just $5 and shipping is free on orders over $150. You can get there by going to davidpakman.com/mask. The link is under this video, and you can save 20% on everything in their store when you use the coupon code DAVID.